Greetings, mortal. Stay thy course for a moment. Dost thou notice any changes in my physicality?
And pause. If you take a look at these dialogue options right here, you'll see the general setup for responses in most RPG games. There's a yes line, there's sometimes a sarcastic quip line, there's an I have questions about this thing we're talking about line, and then it's usually capped off with a no/end dialogue line. There is plenty of variation depending on the situation, of course, but this feels like it's kind of the norm. So, what would it look like if you went through an entire game, say Baldur's Gate 3 for example, with only ever clicking whatever the first dialogue option is? Well folks, that's what I'm here to find out. We are in for a pretty long ride, so I won't do too much more introing. Just subscribe for me. This percentage hurts my feelings a little bit. Alright, so getting right into it, I think I'm gonna try this out on Tactician. People always make fun of me if I play on any other difficulty, so. Then, for my character, I of course just clicked whatever the first option for everything was. Elf is the first race, the shorter female body type is first, blah blah blah, and then Barbarian is the first class, and Acolyte is the first background. As for my stats, it works out that Strength, Dex, and Constitution are the first 3 options, so I dumped all of my stats into those 3. This should absolutely help for fighting, but dialogue and pretty much everything else in this game is gonna suck. My name, of course, also incorporates the challenge, this time being Dumpone. Like dump and one. You guys get it. For some reason, Drow is the first race option for the Guardians, so I went with that, and then instead of having the rest of the character be identical to Dumpone, I just picked the second option for everything, and she's interesting looking. Into the actual gameplay though, our first encounter comes when we find Murnath with a little buddy in his head. The first options led me to investigating the brain and then pulling it out. I did also have to roll to mutilate it, but I failed miserably and us ran off. I then ran into lae'zel, and honestly, it doesn't really matter what you say to her because regardless of the options you pick, you'll be led into a fight against these imps. It's a walk in the park, of course, but then when I climbed to the next level of the ship, I had to kill us. That's kind of a bummer. Thankfully, when I interacted with Shadowheart's pod, the first options got me to open it up and free her. She joined us, and we headed to the helm. Now, it was actually right here that I realized something. I should make it so that I can only attack the first enemy in the turn order. That way the combat is a little different from normal. That being said, Zulk was first on the roster and there was no shot I was gonna kill him, so I just ran straight to the transponder. The ship crash landed, I woke up on the beach and figured it made sense to just go out and grab the closest companions first. Shadowheart is literally only a few yards from you, so I've got her along for the ride, and we took on these intellect devourers. When having to attack in a specific order, the game is way harder. And honestly, that fight was kinda rough. I'm a little scared of what the future holds for this video. Back to making friends, the next closest companion is Astarion. Or Gale. I don't know honestly, but I'm pretty sure Astarion's closer and we'll get to Gale in a second. Like I said in the intro, the first dialogue option is often just a yes when it comes to people asking if you want to do something for them, so I didn't have any trouble getting him to join us. And hey, look at that, level 2. For Shadowheart's spells, I just had to pick whatever the first options were, and honestly I didn't love the setup. Now, the problem with pressing 1 all the time is that you're gonna have to do plenty of stupid things. And talking to the injured Mind Flayer is a perfect example. If you keep picking the first option, you'll eventually feed yourself to it and restore some of its health. This is absolutely fucking ridiculous, but hey, that's the challenge. So after dying over and over to this monster, I was able to use Astarion well enough to put that freaky thing down. This situation was kind of my wake-up call, because honestly, I thought this video was gonna be pretty straightforward. Like, it would be a good guy, save the world, make lots of friends sort of playthrough, but oh boy, that is not how this is gonna go. Anyways, I did come around to freeing Gale, which is great. I was scared he was gonna get left in there somehow, and he joined my team as well. That means we are at full capacity already, and I don't really think I'll get to swap any of them out because, I mean, they were the first ones I talked to after all, which is fine. This is a pretty solid team comp. I also won't be changing their classes or anything like that because, you know, it's like their first option for their class, I guess? I don't know. I just felt like it would be cheating if I changed any of them. Gale is an Abjuration Wizard, the first option for wizard subclasses, and his spells are kinda lackluster. At camp, I talked to Gale, and I always think it's kinda funny that Gale is so stricken by seeing and like learning that hell is real, because dude, you piped a goddess, you know what I mean? Like, how is this a surprise for him? The next morning, we found lae'zel in a bit of a bind, and the first option was to deceive the tieflings, and even though I lack any riz, do people still say riz? Probably not. I was able to successfully get rid of them. I freed lae'zel, and I agreed to let her join me, but because my team is full, she's gonna have to wait in camp for now. Or forever. Again, I don't really plan on switching up companions. Next on the agenda is to say hi to the adventurers outside these ruins. They are kinda jerks, and even though I told them I meant no harm, they decided to attack us. I did some smart fighting, and it took a bit, but I came out on top. I didn't have any luck getting in the main entrance though, so I had to make my own way in. Astarion got stuck in the ceiling, and then ate shit when I tried to move him, and that, along with being outmanned and outgunned, made this fight really tough. I was the last man standing, and when the fight was over, Gale, who was the only one who actually died, came to me as a ghost and told me how to revive him. He's not really a ghost, but you get what I'm saying. It's a ridiculously long process, but when I got to the flute part, I got kinda soft-locked. See, the first option is to just play an A. You can hit this option forever and make no progress, so instead of damning myself to an eternity of hearing the same note over and over, I made the executive decision to not just hit the first option here, but to achieve the first goal I was given by Gale. Like, he asked me to do this thing for him, I told him I would do the thing for him, and now I'm going to make sure I actually do the thing for him. It's kinda cheating, but as long as I'm doing the first thing I was asked, I feel like it's all still in the spirit of the challenge. With the gang all back on our feet, we delved deeper into the ruins and did battle with the skeletons. They're not super scary, especially if you take their weapons away before starting the fight, and we ended up winning. I found Withers, and when he asked me what a single mortal's life is worth, I told him that we're all equal. Aw, I'm so sweet. Alright, I'm bad at the game, so I'm going back to bed. Gale was playing with himself, and then Shadowheart made me giggle with this voice line.
I couldn't help but overhear. Well, alright, I could have helped, but didn't.
That next morning, we got up and approached the grove. It's under attack by some goblins, and while still attacking in order, I helped them defend the place. Although, when we got inside and I talked to Zevlor and Eredin, I had to punch Zevlor. I don't love him or anything, but I definitely would rather punch Eredin, and I think this is the first time me and that guy have had any sort of civil conversation. I got a little sidetracked by saving Nadira from the Bugbear Assassin, and after talking her into giving me the soul coin, I hit level 3. This is where I was given my subclass, the Wild Heart. I'm a Wild Heart barbarian with the heart of a bear, and Astarion is a thief. Further into the grove, I met Will, and like lae'zel, I sent him to camp. I didn't really get to do anything productive for Gex, and after I failed to stop Arca from murdering Saza, I had to kill her and Memnos. Yikes, man, I didn't mean for all that to happen. I talked to the goblin, and I have to free her. Fuck me, man. Okay, well, I got her out of her cage and barely managed to get her all the way out of the grove, which is when she asked me if I would go to the goblin camp, which I will eventually do, but I want to wrap up some other stuff first. I helped Findal in the cave, I was able to save Arabella with a nature check of all things, and then both Gale and Shadowheart told me about their respective conditions. I talked to Kaga and told her I'd get rid of the tieflings, then I talked to Nettie and told her I'd find Halsin, and then finished off by talking to Zevlor and telling him I'd kill the goblin leaders. We've got a lot of conflicting goals going on here. So I'm just gonna prioritize hitting the first dialogue option as we go, and that'll lead us through the mess that we are currently in. Finally venturing outside of the grove, we came upon Edwin and his siblings. Edwin dies, tells his siblings I'm a true soul, and I immediately gave myself away by telling them that I'm definitely not whatever a true soul is, and they attacked me. Well, at least they get to be with their brother. I took Edwin's tadpole out of his body, which was gross, but on a much nicer note, I befriended Scratch. Thank these stars, man, I was terrified of how that was gonna end up. Then, just a bit down the road, we find Karlak. Like the others thus far, I sent her to camp. But I'm not really gonna have her on my team, so I figured I'd just go talk to those paladins of Tyr without her. Unfortunately, saying yes all the time is incredibly suckish, because when I told Anders I bought his story, he just made fun of me and then attacked us. I'd usually target him first because he's the biggest threat, but because I was forced to kill Trin first, which didn't really work out, Anders got a turn and laid both Gale and Shart out. Astarion put one in Trin's head, but it was barely too weak and she had 2 health left. Anders then obliterated me, and we were looking rough. Astarion finished Trin off and then ran for dear life while Anders fucked the others. And then Sorel chased him onto the roof and killed him. Great. After another terrible attempt, Gale was the only survivor, and he ran back to camp and got us fixed up. Okay, you know what? I'm going to sleep. In camp, Will and Karlak did their little song and dance, and thankfully it ended up with them making nice, and we all got to sleep. I got my run back on those paladins the next day. Fuck those guys. And then what the hell is this? What is happening? Why is he floating? Why is she floating? Okay, well, I went back to camp and that fixed things. No idea what that was about. Now, I'd love to use the sword that Anders dropped, the Sword of Justice, for myself, but because the first weapon I got in this playthrough was a great axe, by default, I'm gonna limit myself to only using great axes. I mean, that seems fair, right? Same with my equipment. I found a hat, I put on the hat, I'm stuck with hats now. Not great for a barbarian, but hey, that's amore. Anyways, I went a bit to the west and ran into some hyenas. I thought I could take them, and I probably could have, but they grabbed some gnoll reinforcements, and I decided to cut my losses and get out of there. I was gonna do some more stuff in the Grove when Raphael stopped me. I already knew what was coming, but I basically had to suck his balls for this whole conversation. He teases me, and then we are back to the material plane. I hate to say it, but I like that guy. I helped Alfira finish her song. I was very thankful I didn't actually have to play any music myself, and then I got into it with the Harpies. Man, oh man, am I glad this isn't honor mode, because we got torn to shreds on our first go. The second attempt was much better, and we killed them, but shit man, we are still really weak. I really wanted to rack up some XP, so I went next to Joaquin's Rest, where I saved Counselor Floric, and told her that I would save Ravengard. Honestly, I kinda doubt that that's gonna end up happening. It felt to me like the Blighted Village was the next logical step for our team, and when I approached the barn here, I guess curiosity got the best of me because I opened the doors to find these two making boing boing. Boing boing feels way more vulgar than anything else I could have said. I killed them both, but not before Boothir had some weird animation issue and scarred me for the rest of my life. We met Mazora that night, and she turned Will into a devil. Ouch. Back into the Blighted Village, I talked to the goblins that were torturing poor Barkus, and then you know what? I had to pay this stupid asshole 1,000 gold to make him leave. Dude, I had 1,016 gold. I now have 16 gold. Whatever, at least Barkus is free, and oh, I know, great, I had to say something racist. This playthrough is just fantastic so far. I bald, racist, and only have 16 fucking gold. Let's keep moving. Well, Saza told me to go to the Gablin? Well, Saza... Sorry, Gablin was really funny. Well, Saza told me to go to the Goblin camp ages ago, so we'd better go do that. She made it much easier to get inside, and after getting Jimmy Neutron brain blasted, I was led straight to Minthara. I honestly thought Saza was my homie, but that little green-skinned, rotten... Oh, sorry, she's playing that racist role a little too well. She tried to turn on me, but thankfully Minthara is the real homie and threw that bitch in the spider pit. But then I I told her where the Grove is. Shit. Well, we are going to have one hell of a fight on our hands, aren't we? Well, before we do that, I'd better at least hit level 4. I went back to those gnolls on the road, and though it was ugly, I got everyone leveled up. Now, as far as feats go, I could just pick the first option, which is just an ability score increase, and then do whatever the first option for that is, which is strength, but I feel like that would be kinda lame. So instead, I made a little list of feats that I thought would be somewhat decent for each of my characters, and then used a random list sorter to randomize the order the feats were in, and then just took the first one on that random list. I tried to get some rest to prepare for the battle ahead, but I'd begun turning into a mind flayer. Thankfully, lae'zel spared me, and then my Dream Guardian prevented the transformation. Alright, well, it's morning, and it looks like the Grove has been preparing for the attack. I told Zevlor that I had narked to Minthara, and while he was mad, I told him I would defend the place to make up for it. I even planted some oil barrels, where I knew there would be some enemies spawning. I was nervous, but as ready as I was ever gonna be. I blew the horn, and Minthara and her little army appeared. Zevlor gave a rousing speech, but then Minthara worked her way into my mind, telling me to open the gate and let her in. But surely I wouldn't have to. No fucking way. I guess I just assumed the good option would be the first option, but nope. I'm a piece of shit. With that, we began the siege of the Grove. Honestly, dude, I was flabbergasted that this is how things ended up. I really didn't think we could win against the goblins, but I would have rather tried over and over than just taking the easy way out by killing the tieflings. I'm fine with killing the druids. I don't really care about them, to be honest, but I like the tieflings. After a day of killing that would make Dahmer blush, I called it a night. Will and Karlak both told me to go fuck myself, understandable, and they left for good. Gale was also on the verge of leaving, and then I had to tell him to just leave. Dude, this is going so horribly. At least lae'zel kinda wants to bang me, I think. And Minthara certainly wants to bang me. And boy did we. Though she tried to kill me in my sleep. She's a little crazy. After not killing me, she told me to go to Moonrise Towers and gave me the lyre to summon Karnnis when I reached the Shadow-Cursed Lands. The next day, I recruited lae'zel, my only other ally that isn't currently in my party, got her leveled up, and then looted the grove. So, Minthara told me to get to the Shadow-Cursed Lands by going through the mountain pass. Of course, waiting outside the pass is the Gith squad. I think I was wrong about one being the yes option. I think it's just the stupid idiot option. I urged lae'zel to tell the truth about our situation. Voss didn't like the sound of it, and we are now in a fight that I was absolutely not prepared for. Right off rip, we got our shit pushed in bad. Astarion ran for his life, picked up some barrels from camp, and lae'zel sacrificed herself to take a couple of the Githyanki down. I fixed everyone up, and with my team healthy again, we rained down vengeance on the last two remaining enemies. We're not even out of Act 1 yet, and I am already fed up with pressing 1 for everything. Like I said though, we've got to get through that pass. The game begged me not to go there, but it's not really up to me, so in we go. It made me go night-night before I could actually get in there, and while resting, Astarion tried to bite me. Okay, now let's play a fun little game. Do you think I, A, let Astarion bite me, B, stabbed him in the heart with a wooden stake, C, told him to leave camp and never come back, or D, politely asked him not to bite me? It's A. Of course it's fucking A, guys. That's the whole point of the video. He sucked me good, even ignored my first attempt to get him off of me, but he eventually sauntered off and left me with a sore neck. Now, okay, I know we literally just walked into the mountain pass, but it was at this point that I realized I totally missed interacting with Auntie Ethel. I know, it's all probably gonna go awfully wrong, but that's kind of the fun part, right? I went down to Ethel's swamp, took her side in the argument against Joel and Demir, and put those two in the dirt, and then followed her to her stinky abode. Like with Astarion, and, well, okay, I guess in pretty much every situation thus far, I had to keep saying yes to Ethel, and it eventually led to her taking my eyeball out, messing with it, and then me not really getting anything in return. Sweet. Kinda thought that's what would happen. I figured, I don't know. I don't know what I wanted out of that, honestly. Alright, we're in the mountain pass for real this time, but not 2 steps into this area did lae'zel tell me that we need to go to the creche. Well, that's our mission now. We ran into Lady Esther on the way there, and I was totally prepared to tell her that I would help her with her stupid egg mission, but to my absolute shock, I told her no. You guys, I know this seems like a small victory, but maybe there's some hope for this playthrough after all. Also, she's yassified, and I don't really know how to turn that off. I thought I had turned all my mods off. I was really close to hitting level 5, a very important milestone to hit before getting into trouble inside the creche, so I took out the kobolds in the distillery area and then went upstairs to kill the Grimishka. And wouldn't you know it, that fight was just enough to get me to the next level. When we got into the creche, I trusted lae'zel to handle the guards at the front door, and we got in without incident. The same couldn't be said about the infirmary though, because poor lae'zel got put into the Zaithisk microwave, and I wasn't able to convince her to get out. She survives the explosion, but the doctor lady is pissed, and she brings some friends to attack us. From here, we just went on a killing spree. We got rid of almost all of the Gith in the entire creche. But lae'zel had asked us to go see the Inquisitor, so after we did all that murdering, we spoke to the Kithrak and peacefully gained access to the Inquisitor's chambers. Now, to be honest, I didn't see this all playing out very well, regardless of if we cooperated or not. We did have to play along with the Githyanki's demands though, and even Vlaakith herself appeared to order us around. She asked me to kill the one inside of the prism, and I of course had to oblige. Thankfully, when I was actually inside of the prism, I confronted my guardian and didn't have to go through with killing her. Not that I actually could. lae'zel definitely wasn't happy, but worst of all, Wawargaz and his cronies were waiting for us to come out of the prism, and they attacked us. We actually did really well though, believe it or not. Like, it wasn't a walk in the park, sure, but it was a much smoother ride than I thought it would be. We also had to kill the Kithrak outside of the room, but once that was done, we were finished with this area and we could move on to Act 2. And then after that, I kinda went on Christmas vacation and didn't play the game for like 2 weeks. Merry Christmas though! When I came back, I wasn't taking any risks because I ran right on past these ghouls and hey, Elminster! I didn't know he was gonna show up without Gale in my party, honestly. Anyways, before it lets you into Act 2, you've gotta take yet another long rest. That night, Voss visited our camp and told lae'zel that Vlaakith is a big duty head and she's gotta be stopped. I was able to tell lae'zel that we should trust him, and we agreed to meet with him in Act 3. In Act 2 though, we are in the Shadow-Cursed Lands and I'm feeling anxious. I mean, where do I even start in this place? place? Well, a little goblin bastard made that decision for me because she came up to me and told me that the cultists are meeting up down the road. The shadow curse is incredibly obnoxious, but don't worry, I'm sure it won't last long. I mean, I just gotta go to Last Light and get the... Oh my god, I hope someone tells me to go to Last Light. Well, we'll see about that, but for now, Carnis appeared and made fun of my musical talents, or lack thereof, really, and we were led to Moonrise Towers. We can't do a damn thing without getting interrupted, though, and this time it was a group of Harpers that I'd normally side with to take down Carnis. A little hope rose within me as I thought we'd get to team up with them and turn on the cultists, but of course, that was not the case. We were forced to kill the Harpers, and even though it wasn't that much trouble, I was feeling pretty discouraged. I don't like being evil. Back to what we were doing, though, we ended up at Moonrise Towers after not much longer, and once inside, we watched Minthara get reprimanded by Ketheric. I actually did stand up for her, but to no avail. She was sent away, and I'm just gonna be totally honest with you guys, I forgot she existed after this. Like, I never go and check on her, I forgot. My bad. If it helps, though, and it helped me, I got to make the goblins commit bukkake. Sorry, it's seppuku, not bukkake. I'm not very good with the Japanese stuff. I haven't used a lot of resources, but I'm gonna take a long rest here because I know there's some camp events to go through. First of all, lae'zel's been looking at me different. Hell yeah, I love lae'zel. She's my kind of crazy. In the morning, Shart showed me her one single memory, and after that, we went back to Moonrise Towers, where I was ecstatic to see that my 1,000 gold was still on Fezrik's body. Wow, karma really does come around, doesn't it? I went upstairs, as Zarel instructed me to, and she sent me off to the Thorn Mausoleum. But that's what I do at the end of Act 2. Not the start. Well, I was gonna say that's a moray again, but I kinda already said that earlier. Let's just go to the fucking mausoleum. Our good pal Raphael was sitting outside of the place waiting for us, and Astarion tried to make a deal with him. In a turn of events I've never seen before, though, Raphael kind of exposes Astarion to us. I don't know, I felt pretty bad for him. That's messed up. We did tell him we'd kill Yurgir, though, and with that, we went inside and descended into the Gauntlet of Shar. Just getting in this place brought us to level 6, which was sweet, and then I realized that, man, the Dark Justiciar fights are gonna suck. And yeah, that's exactly what happened. In the second fight, though, things started going pretty poorly. Then it hit me that I shouldn't be the only one doing all the work, so I opened Balthazar's door and made him do something for once. I needed some rest after that nonsense, and in the middle of the night, lae'zel woke me up. She wanted me to fight with her to prove that I love her, and while I'd never hit a woman, I'm gonna leave it at that. I don't even know where I was going with that. We did our little battle, we had our cute little moment, and then in the morning we got back to business. Apparently I'm everybody's fucking errand boy. So when Balthazar asked me to clear a path to the Night Song, I had to oblige. To do so, we got to work on the trials. The soft step trial is pretty easily cheesable, the self-same trial can be brutal, but we made it through, and then the Faith Leap trial isn't nearly as bad as I've made it out to be in the past. The fight in the library was pretty brutal, though. The Justiciars have been just about as miserable as I expected them to be. For our work in the library, we were rewarded with the Spear of Night. I took a little nappy poo before continuing our journey in this place, and then I got a little sidetracked when I woke up, stopping back at Moonrise to buy some good clothes for my character, and then I jumped Elminster. Yeah, no, I don't know why he's here, but I was really hoping killing him would give me some good XP, and after getting 1,000 for doing so, I certainly wasn't disappointed. Alright, let's wrap up the gauntlet, shall we? I confronted Yurgir, and I was excited because I assumed I'd get to talk him off the bridge. Well, jumping off the bridge, that is. But I was really let down when I had to tell him I'd search the place for him. I had a little hope that I could talk to him again and maybe convince him this time, but no such luck. So instead of getting my ass kicked to hell and back, I just had Astarion sacrifice himself so that we could get the last Umbral gem we needed to reach the Night Song. With all 4 gems, I hesitantly descended into the final section of the gauntlet. I say hesitantly for a few reasons. 1, I'm gonna have to deal with Balthazar one way or another. 2, I have no idea if Shadowheart is gonna kill Aelin or not, and I'd really prefer if she didn't. And 3, we haven't really done that much in Act 2 yet, and once you finish up this questline here, there's not really any going back. That being said, we had a job to do, and we were all sucked into the Shadowfell. We jumped over to where Aelin is shackled, and Balthazar was there waiting for our arrival. I've never sided with Balthazar before, and honestly, I don't even know if it's possible to keep working with him beyond this point, but thankfully, I wouldn't need to find out. Well, thankfully and not, because now I've got to fight Balthazar and his army of skeletons. Now, to be totally honest, I kinda forgot about the attacking in order thing here. Look, I was overwhelmed. I was still kinda fresh from my little vacation, my bad. That being said, through a long and incredibly difficult battle, we somehow took out Balthazar and the undead jerks that joined him. I was over the moon at our success, but that joy quickly faded to anxiety when I remembered that we still have to deal with the Night Song. I was relieved to see that I would get to trust Shadowheart, and the two went back and forth for a while, with Aelin seeming to shake Shart's faith a little bit. But then, when it was my turn to speak again, this is what I had to say. Fuck, man, I really can't believe it. I'm almost positive that me and Shadowheart had enough rapport for me to be able to sway her to not kill Aelin, but I guess it doesn't matter. Shadowheart took the spear, drove it through the Night Song, and became a Dark Justiciar. Shar accepted Shadowheart as her chosen and gave her, and by proxy me, a new task. Go to Moonrise and kill Ketheric Thorm, Ketheric the traitor. Before we could get anywhere though, I left the Shadowfell and was confronted with a cutscene I had never seen before. It shows Isabel's defenses of Last Light failing, and as the darkness closes in around her, Isabel is attacked by the shadowy creatures that now inhabit the entirety of these lands. Okay guys, honestly this playthrough has sucked big fat nuts so far, and it's gonna suck even harder if I don't get to level up at least once more before the final Moonrise battle, so even though I'm kinda breaking the rules a bit, I'm gonna go off and do some errands to hit level 7. Namely, I'd like to check on the other Thorms, starting with Garangoth. I wasn't quite lucky enough to get through our confrontation without spilling a little blood, or gold I guess. Whatever, that's one Thorm down. I did have some good luck against Thisabald though, because as the dialogue with him progressed, he drank enough to save me the trouble of popping him myself. Then, when we encountered the third and most dangerous Thorm, my luck continued. It took a little convincing, but Malice was crazy enough to let the nurses practice their torture methods on him, and they're pretty dang bad at it because they tore that guy to shreds. And hey, look at that, level 7. I can't say I'm even relieved, honestly. This is gonna suck. On to Moonrise, we were greeted outside by a very angry Zarel. I've never fought her outside before, but this was actually really nice, because this is a much more manageable sized group of enemies to face versus the veritable horde of baddies I'd normally have to kill inside. There were still plenty of foes in Moonrise proper, but like I did in the Mountain Pass, I used a little invisibility to save myself some time and effort. It wasn't until I reached the tippy top of this place that I realized just how much trouble I was really in for. I had no idea that Karnis would be here waiting for me as well, and he, along with Ketheric and his undead crew, beat the fuck out of me. I'm talking game over screen on the second turn. Look guys, I'm not that great at this game, and even worse, the events that have transpired have backed me into an essentially unwinnable, for me at least, situation. So, with that being said, I bumped the difficulty down a notch. Boo, yeah, go fuck yourself. It was still a pretty miserable experience, and I had to load back a good couple times, but it was actually Shadowheart, with a combination of spamming Sanctuary, good spacing, and a heaping spoonful of good luck that got me through this battle. After that 30-minute long massacre, my team and I got some well-deserved rest. We're almost done with Act 2, but to finish it off, we need to go into arguably the toughest and most dangerous area of the game, the Mind Flayer Colony. There's a lot of things you can do here, but honestly, I don't really see a point in us sticking around. So we headed straight for the boss waiting for us here, Ketheric Thorm. For real this time. He ran away last time. Orin and Gortash are also here. They talked for like 5 minutes straight, which doesn't sound that long, but like when you have the whole thing memorized, it feels really long. But once they made their exit, our battle with Ketheric began. The big man was first in the turn order, which was perfect because that meant I'd be able to get rid of him as quickly as possible. We did enough damage on our second turn to make Ketheric rage quit and summon the actual big man, Merkel. Well, it's an avatar Merkel, which you guys are so keen to point out, but obviously I fucking know that. I was lucky enough for him to also be first in the turn order, or maybe he just takes Ketheric's place, I don't really know how that works. And so I was able to use my secret weapon on him, the barrel nuke. The barrels did a lot, but I still had about half of his health bar to get through, and that's not even mentioning his full squad of backup. lae'zel went crazy on the sticks, landing 3 solid attacks, one of which disarmed him, didn't even know you could do that, and then a Mind Flayer stunned Shartstarian. lae'zel landed one more clean hit, and then once it came back around to Shadowheart's turn, she finished things off with a Glyph of Thunder. Wait, what the hell? Why didn't it go boom? Wow, okay. Thanks, Mr. Skeleton. That fucking guy inted on a literal god's team. That is crazy. My ugly guardian appeared out of nowhere and told me I should go make some more friends. Well, I got a new friend when I emerged from the colony when I ran into Jaheira. Why is she talking to me like we've been best friends this whole time? Okay, Jaheira's schizophrenic episode aside, I am now done with Act 2. On our way out, we got one last look at the shadow-cursed lands. I took a moment to reflect here in my notes, writing, I can't believe how horrible this playthrough playthrough has been. I couldn't have said it better myself. We are kinda near the end at least, though Act 3 is ridiculously long, so I'll try to stick to talking about the important things. The most important thing right off the bat is our encounter with Orpheus's honor guard that night. They came to attack us, and I ran right past them into the astral prism, and found out here that my guardian is actually the Emperor. I trusted him without hesitation, and it was here that I got a sinking feeling that my character was gonna get a little too friendly with him later on. We helped fight off the attackers, but in the process, we got absolutely butt pumped. We clutched up, as we always do, and when talking to the Emperor, I was forced to accept the partial ceramorphosis. I ate the tadpole like a dumb little dipshit, and while I like the powers it gives you, the way it makes you look is just, so ugly. But back to work, let's get through some of the early Act 3 shenanigans with a little lightning round. We befriended Yenna by giving her some coins. I had to pay Zenobia to kindly fuck off. I got the Bone Spike garb, a sick piece of barbarian clothing. I got attacked at the circus. I knew there was a reason I never liked clowns. And after I told Yanis I'd help solve Father Lorgan's murder, I hit level 8. I guess 8 isn't absurdly low, but we've still got a long way to go before we are properly ready to handle the rest of this game. My biggest challenge yet, though, would come against this gauntlet at the gate to Worm's Crossing. I was only able to tell her to mind her own business over and over, and without choosing another dialogue option, you're not allowed to walk past her. So, I just, in the wide open mind you, right in front of them, turned invisible and ran right through the gate. We've got some important decisions coming up, so let's get straight to those. Firstly, when talking with Raphael about freeing Orpheus, something I told lae'zel we'd do, I agreed to his deal to give him the crown of Karsus in return for the Orphic hammer. Usually I'd have Gale or Karlak or even Will to scold me for making this deal, but this time I only had the Emperor in my head to tell me I was an idiot. At least lae'zel gets her silver sword from Voss. It had been a while since I'd slept, so I went to camp where we were confronted by Vlaakith. lae'zel has been on the path to seeing the truth about her queen, so I wasn't really concerned about this encounter. That was until I saw this was the first dialogue option. You guys, I cannot describe to you the feeling of pure, cold dread that washed over me at this moment. The difficulty roll for this is really high, but there's a problem with being a content creator. That problem is that if something really funny can happen, it most likely will happen. Call it Dumpy's Law, call it whatever you want, but I fucking knew I was gonna nat 20, and just watch. No! Dude, that's not fair. Come on. The one time I didn't fucking want it. That's crazy. Great. So now Shadowheart killed Aelin and became a Dark Justiciar, lae'zel is back to being brainwashed, and I have been nothing but supportive to Astarion's aspirations to hijack the Ascension ritual. Larian, what the fuck? What is wrong with you people? Didn't you think about some idiot like me coming through and only pressing one button the whole time? I was thankful though that the next day in Worm's Rock, we played along with Gortash's alliance proposal. Life is much easier when you just team up with him, so at least I've got that going. After our visit with the Archduke, we entered the city of Baldur's Gate proper, and I scared off the Githyanki intruding under the Elf Song Tavern. I went to sleep once again here because I knew there was something coming. Bad choice of words. Or maybe good choice of words. Yes, everyone, yes, I fucked the Emperor, okay? I had to. It was the first option. I can only click the first option, and the first option apparently is the horny option. The next day was a busy one. We saved Cora Highberry from being assassinated. We killed the fish guys at the beach, which brought us to level 9. Yeah, I've skipped a lot of unimportant things, I know. And then, just out of sheer curiosity, I took the team to Sorceress Sundries. I told Lorcan that Aelin is dead, and he just called me stupid. Huh. I thought he'd be a little more angry. Well, while I was there, I also looted the vaults and found the Hellfire Great Axe, one of, if not the, best great axes in the game, and the weapon I'll be using for the remainder of this video. I attacked Helsik, killing her and her freaky golden friends, was fed cat meat by Orin, pretending to be Yenna, and then killed the ballists who were hanging out in the park, as well as Dolur, who was trying to kill Figaro and Devella. I was also relieved to find Volo in one piece, and I kept him that way by taking the barrels that were surrounding him, as well as killing his attackers. But finally, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a nice moment. lae'zel wakes me up at the crack of dawn, takes me to see the sunrise, and she shares her feelings with me.
I cannot be yours. You cannot be mine. It's better this way. Trust me.
Oh, alright. Well, my spirit is sufficiently broken. Huh. Well, I guess I'll take my emotions out on Saravok then. He judged me, found me to not be edgy enough, and I murdered him. Yeah, that honestly didn't make me feel any better. But at least we are close to leveling up again. I helped Nina revive her big dumb brother in the graveyard, and killing him and his zombie buddies got me to level 10. We are on a pretty horrible track, but it couldn't really get much worse, could it? Well, let's find out by going to the Cloister of Somber Embrace and resolving Shadowheart's questline. I was pleasantly surprised to see that Shark convinced most of the Cloister to join her revolt against Viconia, and the ensuing fight was one-sided as per usual, but this time it was sided in our favor. But then it came time to deal with Shadowheart's parents. I'm not sure if I even could have turned her from the awful path she was going down, but I didn't really get the chance to try, telling her that she should end her parents' suffering. She does so, and she feels bad about it, until Shar fucks with her brain, and Shadowheart is left feeling no remorse for what she has done. Oh, did you expect this to be a fun, lighthearted trip through Baldur's Gate 3? Yeah, man, me too. But no, we are stuck with doing the stupidest shit possible because, and I'm just gonna skip the 2 hours it took for me to defeat Cazador, when Astarion was at his crossroads, he also went down the evil path. I was forced to help him complete the rite of profane ascension, and he became one of the most powerful and evil creatures in all of Faerun. Larian, get it together. Alright guys, I think this is maybe the 30th video I've said this in. Honestly, I should go back and count someday. But this whole thing has taken way longer than I originally thought it would, so I'm just gonna skip straight to the good stuff, because we are very close to the end. Starting with our confrontation with Orin, I actually saved Yenna by lying to Orin and telling her that I had already killed Gortash, like she had asked, and then the fight ended up not being too bad, and after a little back and forth, I had obtained my second nether stone. That just leaves me with the third and final stone, currently in the possession of Gortash. And once again, I was backed into saying something stupid. Gortash tests my gangster, and I am immediately forced to fumble our entire alliance by being a huge pussy. We're at level 12 now though, the max level, and even though it wasn't an easy fight, we were able to handle ourselves pretty well. That's all we need now to beat the game though, so I'm not wasting any more time. Let's head to the Morphic Pool and piss off the Nether Brain. We are totally helpless in the face of this ancient evil, but the Emperor swoops in and saves us. We realize here that we need a Mind Flayer skill set, and honestly, I wasn't sure how this would go, but even with lae'zel's whining and moaning that Orpheus should be slayed by her blade, I simply gave the stones to the Emperor and he sucked up Orpheus's brain juices. Of course, once we left the Astral Prism and entered the final stretch, Voss approached us and was pissed. Somehow, I managed to hit yet another nat 20 and convinced him to not get in our way. Onto that final stretch proper, we've got a pretty short list of allies, but my party should be more than enough to make this all work out by now. By using some more invisibility potions, I know it's kinda lame, but hey, no point in wasting resources before the big battle, right? I was able to sneak straight up to the brain's dangly bits and climb my way to the top. The brain talked a bunch of shit, but when it was finally action time, I tried to make a break straight for the crown. It didn't start off very well, not very well at all, honestly, but we did manage to get the portal to the Nether Brain open after a few turns and we all piled inside. Well, all of us except Astarion, who kept getting stunned. What sucked about that was that the Nether Brain was at the very end of the turn order, so I can't really attack it until everyone is in there. It's kinda messed up to say, but thankfully Astarion just died, and once he was gone, the other enemies didn't exist anymore, and we were able to kill the brain. I also killed my graphics card, because with a massive pile of explosives, I nuked the brain. Anyways, folks at home, we are pretty much done now. After a failed attempt to tell the Emperor to dominate the brain, it crashes into the sea. I'm reminded that Shart went down the wrong path because she never learned how to swim, and even worse, lae'zel flew off to her demise. Once in front of Lakith herself, lae'zel was presumably consumed by the Githyanki Queen. Jeez, man. When it came to the epilogue party, it sounded like both Shadowheart and Astarion were living pretty bad, evil lives, and then Withers told me about lae'zel's fate. And then you know what? I couldn't even beat the game. In the last possible bit of dialogue, I could not finish it. Like with the gauntlet at the gate to Worm's Crossing, I was soft-locked into saying the same thing over and over. And you know what? That's kinda perfect. After that shitty, poopy, horrible mess of a playthrough, we couldn't even beat the game. So the answer to, can you beat Baldur's Gate 3 by only pressing 1, is no, you can't. You can't trigger that final cutscene by talking to Withers. You can't. This video ended up being way more of a mental fustercluck than I could have ever imagined. I mean, like I said at the start, I just thought this was going to be a normal good guy playthrough, but it couldn't have really been any less of a normal good guy playthrough. I sure as hell didn't have any fun, but if you had fun watching me suffer, then please leave a like and subscribe to see me in more more pain in the future. It's kind of inevitable. I do stupid stuff like this all the time. Once again, thank you guys for watching. GG's, everybody.